Good evening, folks. I'm going to yell because we don't have a microphone, but we're going to get started in just about a minute. We're just going to get the opportunity to let a few more folks come in and get settled down, but we'll be starting up in just about a minute or two. So thank you for coming out, and just bear with us. Thanks.
Okay, my eyes are kind of bad too. I work great. Okay. Oh, lilac! Did you have my note about the lilac? I know, that was so cute. Oh, so sorry. I really asked for this reason. And then I didn't. I got okay. Boyfriend made this for me. We made each other bracelets. God, it's his every day. I know. So cute. Okay, alright, so I would go. What was it name? Surprise. I don't know why. I thought it was like, oh, that's why I was like, don't ask me what's good. Like pastel bracelet. That's so cool. My really good friends.
Just because I neglected to bring up her.
Shortest hair ever.
No, I handled, but you know. Yes, and you can have it.
Okay, that's not my job to like guess. But also we can.
I'm a toddler, so you never know. In general.
That's what I mean. I thought it could be some more thing that's like he's like totally like outside the question. Or he would say some like cryptic, like I know, like.
In fact, taking so many pictures.
That sounds right. So why something about Disney princesses so much? Like I forgot about that. I think that was fun to you. So that's what we had that conversation with the thing the night before. I see. Yeah. What it is it like if there's one friend with it? It's so hard. There is a preference. It's like, what the fuck there is? People like them for several reasons. There's no percentage. And also, like, all of his answers were like, you're so welcome. To like express like stereotypical like kindness. Right. And he was like, he didn't like any like subversive ways to show power. Right. He didn't like yes, I just okay. Yeah, he's kind of like that makes sense. Oh my god, okay, there's this one video I'm gonna show you of this person from Sleeping Hospital talking about Sleeping Beauty, I think. It's just like it is valid as a concept of beauty. Just like want to be in love and be a mother.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Happy Hanukkah to those of you who celebrate. My name is Bob Balkine. I'm the Dutchess County Public Works Commissioner. Can people in the back hear my voice? Thank you. Thank you. So again, thank you for coming out. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're here for tonight, I just want to kind of cover a couple, I would say, ground rules or just general information for everybody. So first off, for safety reasons, there's an exit to your back here, and there's an exit through the side of the auditorium here, straight out the stairs. In an emergency, find your closest exit. If you need a bathroom, out this door, to the left, down the end of the hallway, that's where the restrooms are. So, we're here tonight to talk about our public transit route modifications. and I'm going to introduce my team from Dutchess County DPW. Before I do that, I'd just like to recognize some of your elected officials that came out tonight to hear us. First off, I see Village of Tivoli Mayor Joel Griffith, so thank you, Joel, appreciate it. Legislator Christopher Munn is here, and Legislator Brennan Kearney is also here, so thank you very much. And Mickey Struwinski representing Elizabeth Spinzia, the town supervisor here. And again, thank you for the town of Rhinebeck for hosting us here tonight. What?
Village Braddock is here.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Smythe is somewhere. She's in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I apologize. Mayor Smythe, I apologize.
Two members of the Redwood Town Board.
I'm sorry?
2 members of the Redwood Town Board.
Okay, thank you.
Also,
Village trustees.
a member of Assembly Member Trustees team.
Thank you, appreciate it. So there's, your elected officials and representatives are here to listen as well, so that's good news. We understand that the information that we're going to present to you tonight is contentious. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the public, not just in Northern Dutchess, but throughout the county, because the route modifications are going throughout the county, not just here. What we would ask is that we're going to do a presentation, be about 15 to 20 minutes long. You're going to want to ask questions. We know that. We'd like you to wait till the presentation is done, because some of the information we present to you might answer your question, or it might prompt another question. So we'd like you to listen to the presentation, and then we will, I believe there's a sign-in sheet for questions, so if you'd like to ask a question, we'd encourage you to sign up so we can take you in the order that you signed up. I would ask all of you to respect each other and respect us, and let whoever is speaking speak. Let them have their turn. We would love to be able to answer questions that we can answer today. Give us an opportunity to answer the question, and just be mindful and respectful of everybody and their wanting information. So give them the opportunity to ask the question, and if we can answer it, give us the opportunity to answer it. And again, I know the route modifications have a very visceral response from a lot of people. Public transit affects people's lives. We understand this. It's not lost on us. Dutchess County's been operating a public transit system for over 40 years. We understand the impact our system has on communities, and when we make changes, we understand those impacts. Some of them are good. Some people perceive them as not good. We get that. So please just be mindful, be respectful. We'd like to put a hard stop at tonight's meeting at about 7:30. Again, some of us are celebrating Hanukkah tonight, and I would like the ability to get some folks home to light their candles and say their prayers. So I don't want to be here till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. If at the end of this evening you have not gotten an opportunity to ask your question or state your comment, we're going to provide you with a website, an email address that you'll be able to send all of your comments and questions into, so we can get them all together and kind of consider them all. Obviously, there are many people in this room with the same question, so it's easier for us to get all those questions, get an answer, and push all the answers out to everybody. Even if you didn't ask the question, you may still benefit from somebody's question and the answer that goes with it. So with that, I'd like to introduce my public transit team. Dave Whalen, my Deputy Commissioner at Public Works. Michael Grattini, our Director of Public Transit. And Amanda Salmon, our Assistant Director at Public Transit. Also with us tonight is Lauren Petrella from the County Executive's Communications Office. And she's assisting with the presentation and recording questions and things like that. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michael, and you can start our presentation. And again, hold your questions, and we'll get through the questions as quickly as we can after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. If you can't hear me, please, in the back, let me know. My voice doesn't really project very well, but I'm trying the best that I can.
I don't,
A light would be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't think we have.
yeah, we don't have one.
Oh, maybe we do.
Oh, do we?
No.
right, no, we don't.
Okay, so I will speak even louder. I will try and do my best. So if you want to follow along, we do have some sheets up here. If you can't see that, or if you don't hear me, these will be available at any time during the presentation. So the last significant route modifications to our public transit system were in 2017 with the expansion of the City of Poughkeepsie service. In 2019, we engaged with a company by the name of Nelson Nygaard, a transportation expert, to review all of our routes, including dial-a-ride, flex, fixed route, and our ADA services. They did ongoing route analysis. They had done surveys via the website, and we continue to do route analysis ourselves with, along with rider requests and feedback. They started the service in 2019. They started the survey in 2019. Due to COVID, the study was taking a lot longer than it should have, and the study wasn't finished until mid-January of 2022. When the Dutchess County team got the study back, we started to go through it, and we looked at all the suggestions that Nelson Nygaard made. During that period of time, we were also looking at the route numbers and the carry for all of our routes from 2022 on. Because we noticed when the study came back that Nelson Nygaard had made some suggestions to us that didn't seem right to us anymore. In 2019, they may have been correct. But we started to look at our ridership numbers, particularly all of the routes in the system, not just the Route C, every single route in the system. And we noticed that where they suggested that we discontinue service completely in other areas of the county, there was actually more ridership now than there was in 2019. So we had to go back and probably reanalyze all of the routes and all the numbers to see which ones made sense and which ones didn't make sense. So when we did that, we then developed our route modification plan, which we have presented to the legislature and the county executive's office. These route changes are scheduled to go into effect March 30th of 2024. We're going to continue our public outreach right up until March 30th and after that, so that people will understand exactly what's happening, what's going on, where their buses will be. And that's part of our challenge, is to run a service that's a mass transportation service, a service that has to serve the urban area of our county and the rural area of our county. And the challenge is to kind of meld those two systems together. Areas where you have very low ridership, areas where we have ridership where we have full buses and people can't get on a scheduled bus to get to work either. That's our biggest challenge, is that we have so many people riding in some areas and so few people riding in other areas. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda now and let her review each of the changes with you.
Hi, everybody. I'll try to be louder than Michael.
Yeah.
So the service enhancements are all of the changes we've made to our existing routes that enhance the service. We are adding service to the Route A and the Route B. For you, those of you that don't know, that service goes from Poughkeepsie to Fishkill and Poughkeepsie to Beacon. Those two routes have several trips a day, standing room only, and we actually have to deny people to get on the bus because it's so full. So we're increasing the frequency on those two routes by 8 trips each week. The Route F is the bus that goes from Beacon to Hopewell. What's happened over the last year and a half, 2 years, they built the Amazon facility. They relocated Dutchess Community College South to the Dutchess Mall. They've got the Frito-Lay facility is now built and almost open for business. And they've also had a couple of big, huge industrial parks that they're building. The New York State Labor Board, as well as several of the businesses located on that route, have reached out requesting service that can actually accommodate their employees getting back and forth to work. The Route G is the Beacon Shuttle. It travels around Beacon. We've worked on that route with the city of Beacon to have that become a Main Street shuttle to service the shops and the facilities that they have on Main Street Beacon. We've also added 2 new routes that mimic other routes that we have that travel within the city of Poughkeepsie. Currently, we have a Route M as in Mary that travels around the city of Poughkeepsie and also services the Poughkeepsie High School and the Poughkeepsie Middle School. But during the day, no one else takes it besides the school children back and forth to school. And there really are no destinations of interest on those 2 routes. It just travels down residential roads. So we've created these 2 new routes to service the housing facilities, the apartment complexes, along those 2 routes that will actually now service the ShopRite in Heritage Hills, which is across from Marist College, and will also service better hourly service to the Hudson Plaza and Poughkeepsie Plaza. For those of you that don't know where that is, that's the Price Chopper and the TJ Maxx on Route 9 in Poughkeepsie. We've gotten a lot of feedback from some of the older residents and seniors that the current route that services their facilities is too long. They're on the bus for an hour and a half. It's painful. They're not getting to their destination as quickly as they like, so we'd shorten those 2 routes for them. Also with our service enhancements, we're adding more flex service, which for those of you that don't know, that's our Dutchess County taxi cab service. As long as you're anywhere within the county and you book a trip with us 3 to 30 days in advance, we will come get you and bring you anywhere else in the county that you'd like to go. If you stay within your town, it costs $5. If you go anywhere else within the county of Dutchess, it's $6. Just in comparison, Uber from Poughkeepsie to Beacon is $40. I don't know how much a taxi cab is. I think it's more. So to be able to go from Amenia all the way down to Beacon or any other part of the county for $6 is pretty affordable. And currently, actually, let me talk a little bit more about Flex before I jump to the next point. Currently, we offer 2 buses each day. They operate around 9 a.m. to around 1:30 in the afternoon. We're expanding that to 5 buses from 7:20 in the morning till 5:15 in the afternoon. We're also offering that service now on Saturdays on top of just Monday through Friday, as it is currently. To jump back to service enhancements, we've also changed all of our fixed routes to be more simplified. As those of you who have ridden the Route C, that bus takes a different route every time it comes up here, every single time. One time it goes up Smith Street in the city of Poughkeepsie, another time it takes St. Andrews in Hyde Park, another time it's taking Crum Elbow. It never goes the same direction every trip. So what we've done that is streamlined every single one of our routes. They will take the same direction, the same turn by turns on every single trip. Now to the route efficiencies. This is the bad news. We are eliminating the underutilized route sections in Red Hook and Tivoli. The bus will now terminate at Tops and Rhinebeck. The Route D, I'm sorry, that's based on 4 or fewer riders. I don't know if anybody can read this. 4 or fewer riders per trip, which is the industry standard. If you have 5 or more, you have a very successful trip. 4 and fewer means that the route is not really being used the way it should be used. The Route D is the bus that goes from Poughkeepsie out to Wassaic. From Millbrook to Wassaic, there is one person that rides that bus sometimes. So that bus is traveling an extra, I believe it's 18 miles with no one on it. We're going to terminate that service in Millbrook. The Route E is the tricky one. That was the route that the Nelson Nygaard study said to terminate in LaGrange. It currently goes all the way to Pauling. What we found during and after COVID is that more people out in Pauling started actually using the service. We have the 7 o'clock trip in the morning, where now 13 people are taking that bus into Poughkeepsie, when prior to COVID, there was tops 6. So instead of canceling that service at tops, what we've done is we've kept the 3 trips that were actually carrying a very decent amount of people, the trips that people were actually utilizing. The routes M and P were the 2 routes I spoke of earlier that traveled near the Poughkeepsie Middle School and High School. Oh, I'm sorry, the Route L is the Main Street shuttle in the city of Poughkeepsie. It's a very popular route, it's used very well, but after 8 p.m. at night, possibly because the 2 shopping centers that it services, one of them closes at 7. So after 8 o'clock, no one's really on that bus. So we're going to terminate service after 8 p.m. The routes M and P, as I said, are the 2 routes that service the Poughkeepsie Middle School and High School. And what we're doing is eliminating all of the trips that don't correspond with the bell times. So the students, and it's still open to the public, students, teachers, faculty can still ride to school and ride home from school. The rest of the trips will be eliminated. The routes H, J, and K. H and K service the Dutchess Community College as well as the Poughkeepsie Galleria. It also stops at the Hudson Plaza and the TJ Maxx Plaza. And the J goes from Poughkeepsie just up to Hyde Park. It turns around at FDR and goes back to Poughkeepsie. Those 3 routes have kind of been merged into the 2 new routes N and O that I spoke of earlier. And some of the stops have also been added onto the routes B, C, and D. B for Beacon, C for the route that comes up here, and D is the bus that goes out to Dover. We also offer rail link service. It's first thing in the morning and around 6 o'clock at night, we have a smaller bus that services not only the Poughkeepsie train station, but also the New Hamburg train station. The New Hamburg train station service will be eliminated because there's 2 people on it sometimes, not an everyday occurrence, and we're running 4 trips, most of which have 0 riders on. The Poughkeepsie rail link service is also going to be eliminated, somewhat because of the ridership. There's not many people riding that bus, but the reason behind that is because almost every single other one of our routes goes to the Poughkeepsie train station. So it's so much easier to just stay on the bus and go down to the train instead of getting on the rail link service. Also, in case any of you don't know, we do have a riders app. I use it every day to track where the buses are. It tells you where they are, it tells you by stop, it tells you how long it's going to take for your bus to get there. If you are making a connection with another bus, it'll show you exactly where that other bus is in case you need to have the driver radio to say, hey, wait up for us, we're running a little late. We also push out all of our alerts. So the meeting tonight, we put that on the app. It automatically texts everyone that has that downloaded. It also, we send out text messages and SMS alerts when a bus is running late, when there's a bus breakdown, when there's a deviation on the route because of fire or construction. That's available to download, and it's listed on our app through both the Android and the Play Store. That's my section.
Thank you, Amanda. So we're gonna open it up to comments and questions in just one moment. I want to just, you got to hear who we are before I get too far along. I'd just like to note that Town of Red Hook Supervisor Robert McKeon is joined us as well. So thank you, Supervisor. Very much appreciate you being here. I want to know a little bit about you all, and some of you might want to know about you all as well. By show of hands, how many folks have ever in your life, as a young one or as a older one, how many people have ridden a fixed route public transit bus with Dutchess County? I have. That's awesome. That's awesome. How many people have ridden our fixed route bus service in the last 10 years? Almost the same number, that's great. How about in the last 5 years? Good, a few less. How about in the last year? Okay, a few less yet. How about in the last 6 months? Good, very good, so we have some good consistent ridership. I appreciate that. I want you all to see, and I wanted us to kind of understand, you're using our bus system, that's great. So that's helpful information. Is there any other commentary we want to offer as far as the presentation is concerned? Otherwise, we'll turn it over and open it up, okay? Lauren, would you like to start us off with who's going to come first and next?
I'm just going to run through as you signed in, so no shenanigans. Alex from Assemblymember Shrestha.
Hi. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Great. My name is Alexander Dimitriades. I'm a student at Bard, but today I'm speaking on behalf of Assemblymember Sarahana Shrestha, for whom I intern, who couldn't be here today due to prior commitments. Assemblymember Sarahana strongly urges you to not eliminate Dutchess County's bus service anywhere, especially in Red Hook and Tivoli on the Route C route. Even if we assume that the data is correct, that only 4 or less riders use the underused portion of the route on average, we cannot abandon the few who depend on the service. Instead, we must see it as our duty to increase ridership and make buses more reliable and accessible. That said, the Assembly member would like to request information on where that data originated, how it was calculated, and how recent it is, and for all the stakeholders to be included in this conversation. We are also alarmed by the lack of transparency, public notice, and coordination that was involved in arriving at this proposal. In a car-dependent culture like ours, mobility can be a critical challenge to our most vulnerable, and we cannot take this issue lightly. It can be a matter of life and death depending on the circumstances. As you know, Ulster County's bus ridership has increased by nearly 40% in a year since free rides were introduced, which shows that more accessibility to bus services, the more people will use it. In addition to preserving the needs of the riders, however few, who use the bus for essential services, such as to get on the train or to visit a doctor, public transit needs to play a critical role in our transition towards a green economy. Now is not the time to abandon it. The Assembly member is eager to collaborate with all parties in preventing the elimination of this service on any of the Dutchess County bus lines and to commit to expanding and strengthening public transit in the Mid-Hudson Valley region. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Joyce. I'm representing the SCALE Project, which is an organization on Bard campus who advocates for first-generation and low-income students. As a leader in the Bard community, it is becoming obvious that Bard is becoming a resource desert, and it largely has to do with the public resources in surrounding towns that are not recognizing or supporting the entire community of students in this county. This isn't just about an inconvenience, it's about equity, health, and financial well-being. The Loop C is a lifeline to towns like Poughkeepsie and Rhinebeck from Red Hook and Tivoli, and it enables many of us to get home during breaks, attend healthcare appointments, and access essential services. Eliminating these stops proposed would create an unbearable financial burden. The SCALE project also has data to back up our concerns. Transportation was mentioned numerous times in our survey to the entire student body, and it was mentioned numerous times when asking about the top 3 most pressing costs. When we gauged the #1 financial burden for students, 29% of our respondents noted that transportation was their top financial burden, specifically marking transportation to and from campus during breaks, which is exactly what the Loop C does. It brings you to the train station. Removing the Loop C would disproportionately affect low-income students and community members and widen the gap between these students and their peers. So my questions include, how will the survey data you mentioned be made accessible? How are you considering the vast change in the post-COVID college world? How are you considering that there are many more students on campus who are now unable to travel into the community and see their doctors in person? That data clearly was not evident in the mid-COVID survey data, so how are you addressing the clear lack of continuity in data? There is a huge change between mid-COVID and post-COVID, and I understand that you are not the decision makers of this negative decision, however you do inform the decision with your surveys. So how are you conducting survey analysis through the lens of the clear change in the post-COVID world? The college also has a lot of data on how much people use this bus. So how are you including them on the conversation? And how are you actively working to include the people that this decision will affect in the process of the decision itself? Thank you.
Sarah Seeger.
Hi, I am Sarah Seeger, a senior at Bard College and also a part of the SCALE project. Today I'm speaking as a concerned student who is also from a low-income background. The Route C bus allows access to healthcare appointments. I personally have used this bus to get to necessary appointments. It is also an essential aspect for allowing community members to have access to larger community in the city and otherwise inaccessible nearby areas. By cutting off service to Route C and Red Hook and Tivoli, Northern Dutchess will be further isolated from Southern Dutchess, further dividing our community. This also speaks to the division between the Bard community and the larger community. These changes will further isolate students and the community in an already secluded area.
Thank you.
Kathy O'Connor. I apologize if I butcher anybody's name.
First of all, will you answer any direct questions or no?
Tonight, we're just trying to receive your questions. If we spend the time to answer them, I'm afraid very, very few people will have their questions or comments heard. So we'd like to hear them all and give you the opportunity to give us that comment or question. We could spend an inordinate amount of time answering. Our mission here is to collect your comments, your questions, and then give everybody those answers again, so everybody gets them.
I would like to know if these slides are online anywhere.
They are.
Thank you.
You can also have a hard copy.
I don't want a hard copy. Thank you. Give me a second.
Yeah, take your time, please.
I want to know if what is on the first slide is indisputable, that these changes will become effective on March 30th, or if these public hearings might have any impact on
Sure.
you?
That one I'd like to answer because that's very pertinent to our discussion tonight. So the question was, for anybody who didn't hear it, well, you want to restate your question just so everybody can hear that? Did everybody hear?
I just want to throw in another one.
Yeah,
If you don't,
okay.
the third one is a comment. With the exception of the two county legislators who are here tonight, I want to say that my impression is that Dutchess County, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, is a government of the legislature, by the legislature, and for the legislature. And now I'll take you back to my second question.
Did everybody hear what she was asking?
Yeah.
Yes? No? I'd like you to repeat it, if you would, please.
I want to know if, in fact, what was on the first slide was that these changes will become effective on March 30th, and whether or not these hearings might have any effect on that possibility.
Yeah, so as it stands here today, the changes that we're talking about were, as was mentioned earlier, proposed to the county executive's office, to the legislature. The legislature adopted a budget that included these changes. So as it stands today, these changes will take place on March 30th. However, I want to let everybody know here, tonight isn't the end of this conversation. Tonight is the beginning of this conversation. We look forward to working with the village of Red Hook, the village of Rhinebeck, the town of Rhinebeck, the town of Red Hook, the Bard community. We think there are solutions to be had. There are a lot of solutions to be had to get people from the Tivoli area to our last stop in Rhinebeck. We know this because we do these solutions in other places in other ways. We call it in the industry the first and last mile. Has anybody ever heard of the first and last mile concept? Yeah. The first and last mile of any transit system is that's the hard one. Once you're on the system, you'll go anywhere you want. Getting to the system, that first mile, and then getting home from the system, that last mile, that's the challenge. And we understand that this route modification just made that challenge more difficult for the people in the Tivoli area. We understand that. We also ask you to understand that in the county we have a limited resource. We have a limited budget, we have limited bus drivers, and we only own a certain number of buses. So we try to create the best system we can with the resources we have at our disposal. That is not to say that more resources can't be brought to bear. And part of the solutions that I'm referring to when we start having, real detailed discussions with the municipalities, with the BARD community, we want to look at what other resources are available. They could be county resources, they could be town resources, they could be village resources, they could be combinations of all these stakeholders participating to solve this first and last mile issue, which is really the issue we're talking about. So to your point, yes, the routes are slated to start March 30th, but between now and March 30th, we're committed to work with the municipalities, to work with the stakeholders, to find those solutions for that first and last mile. Like I mentioned just before, this isn't the end of this conversation. The conversation starts tonight. So thank you for the question, thank you for the comment, and we'll continue along.
All set?
Thank you.
Just real quick as well, if you go to dutchessny.gov/public transit, there's a link on the Contact Us bar for sign up for updates. That'll bring you to our Dutchess delivery service, which we do use to push out press releases, news updates, alerts like this as well. So if you haven't subscribed to that, just enter your email and you'll be on our list to make sure that you get any future updates that we push out, whether that's meeting notices or changes or just answers to questions. And with that said, Mayor Joel Griffith.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Joel Griffith, Mickey, you tricked me out. I thought we were signing in. I don't like talking at the beginning, but here we go. I'll get it over with. It's great that you're all here. I'm here representing the 1018 Tivolians. Since this was announced, there's been anger, fear, anxiety, frustration. It has not been rolled out well in my community, and I want to also back up just a hair and say, Tivoli's a tiny place. We work with Dutchess County a lot. We've got county road coming right through. I have many friends and colleagues and collaborators in Dutchess County, and being in government, I know what it's like to try and make hard decisions with limited resources. So I don't know who decided to sort of, it feels like, it's a feeling, feels like this is a fait accompli, and now it's been dropped out in the wide world. I'm not sure if that's how you all wanted it to come across, but I think that's how it has felt. And that's something that you should hear from us. I'm glad that this is the conversation starting. I think for many of us, absolutely, we're not done talking. Now, readership numbers, I don't doubt it. I see the blue bus. So we have to find other ways to serve those people, and if you can't run these same routes, I've heard lots of suggestions. We're interested in collaborating with our friends in the county, but we haven't been brought in until just tonight. I think I've said that. There's all sorts of suggestions. Smaller buses, maybe this flex thing's going to come further, less frequent routes, but I feel so strongly that I must say we should not be cut off in the northern part of the county. That is not So I don't want to take up a whole lot of time from everyone else, yeah, there's a lot of concern in Tivoli about how this is going to affect us, how this rolled out. We want to find something else. We want to work with you all. I know that many people are going to say other things I think, so I just want to wrap that up for now, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
today, and I'm from Tivoli as well. I just want to say that I appreciate having had the Route C bus for the past 15 years that I've lived in Tivoli. I ride it occasionally up and down the Crescent, but very soon I'm going to have to stop driving, and I'm really depending on that bus to get me to my doctors and groceries and a quart of milk or whatever. I'm on a fixed income and I don't have finances to pay for taxis or Ubers or whatever. And it's going to be real hardship for me if this goes down.
Thank you for your comment.
Betty?
My name's Betty Picciuolo. I am a parent of a son with a developmental disability. This is the first time we're hearing developmental disability so far in this conversation. He works at Williams Lumber. We live in Red Hook. He's been working at Williams Lumber for 10 years. He does not drive. This is his only source of transportation. So I'm really, really worried about his ability to continue his job, So I've heard about the flex service. I don't really understand it. That certainly is one of the questions. How does that work? Just having to do with all of that. So that's certainly, one of my main questions. And how, what are we doing with that?
I thank you for your comment, ma'am. At the end of the evening, could you come up and leave a contact information with Amanda and Michael? They're gonna reach out to you, make a call, and give you a little bit more information to try to find some solutions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Christopher Munn. Sorry,
Legislator.
I didn't, legislator, Christopher Munn, I didn't mean to read it like that.
Hi, I'm Chris Munn. I'm the county legislator for Red Hook and Tivoli, and as of January 1st, the northern half of Rhinebeck. For the record, neither I nor Brennan voted for that budget, so I don't want to have to take any of the blame or credit on that. I'm glad that they're expanding the routes in the areas that are overloaded. I would like to see more investment in transit in this county, not less. This sounds like basically they started with a certain amount of money and then they decided how they were going to rearrange things for that amount of money. And it's, you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but, we still have climate change, we still have the problems, we're still underserved, and, we need to have a solution, whether it's restoring the route or, something else. I do plan on putting forward a budget proposal in January to find out, which I'm sure you guys will be getting the request of how much it would cost to restore the line. And then I'll work it through the budget office and I'll put it forward in the legislature. But I'll be honest with you, while this may be a government, was suggested by the legislature, the legislature is controlled by the county executive's office. And the county executive's office is the one who writes the budget in the beginning. So, and then basically, these are the parameters. Please tell us what you can do with that amount of money. People who work in the transit department and the public works department, who I know, a couple of these gentlemen I know well, and are good people who work hard, but they're also given certain resource constraints. So I will be doing that in January, February. Again, it's a legislature that is not necessarily compatible with my value system when it comes to public transit or climate change or a whole bunch of other things. But we will put it forward and we'll see what happens and we'll try to get something done. I'm sure Brennan agrees. But again, I'm here to hear more about you, so I'm going to sit down now. Thank you.
I have Christine Troutman next, but not speaking. Is that still true?
That's true.
All right. Joanna Jones.
Hi everyone, good night. My name is Joanna Jones and I work for the Office of Equity and Inclusion at BARD.
Me, myself included, along with all my students, really utilize this service, especially on weekends, to go back home to our family. First generation students on average take care of their homes, so they need to go home and make sure that everyone in their family is good. And by taking away this service, you're both hurting me and my students. In addition to that, I'm also a student ambassador here at BARD. So I run tour guides, I run tour services. And on average, I tour 30 plus people every week, going into 40, 50, 60 people. And I advocate for this bus service every week to incoming students. And BARD is also growing. We're even building new dorms right now as we speak because the population of students are increasing. And these students that are coming, I'm telling you, you don't need a car. We have this bus service. So what do I tell those students that come next year if they don't have a bus service? So that's my share.
Yeah, hi, Craig Olszewski. I am a resident here in Rhinebeck, and I live in the village. I work in Hyde Park at the National Park. It should be a very easy ride for me to walk from here to the bus stop, ride the bus down to work, and come back at night. But the schedule of the buses does not really provide for that. The buses are too infrequent. And I think it's incumbent on you folks not just to give people rides, but to provide us with a system that works, that functions. And if there aren't enough people riding on some of these lines, we need to focus on what has to happen to get them out of their cars and get them into the buses. What I see happening here is we have a fragment of this line that goes up to Tivoli. Between Rhinebeck and Tivoli, there aren't enough people on it. And as you said, the 4 people per ride is the limit. And that makes perfect sense. If you got a big, buses take a lot of fuel, and if it's only 1 or 2 people on the bus, that doesn't make good ecological sense. But if you take those 2 people out and subtract them from the, maybe 5 or 6 people who ride from Rhinebeck down to Hyde Park or down to Poughkeepsie, now you only have 3 people riding from Rhinebeck to maybe Hyde Park is where more people get on. So you would have to, over time, keep diminishing the line, and pretty soon you don't have anything. And I'll just remind people that 100 years ago, there was a passenger rail station in every rinky-dink little town in this country, and now they're all gone because people got into their cars, stopped riding the trains, and the trains went away. So that's what I have to say.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know that not for everyone it's essential to have this role.
Speak up, please. Louder.
I said thank you so much for coming. And I know that not for everyone here is essential to have this role, but we really appreciate it for the solidarity. My comment will be a bit longer just because I'm speaking on behalf of dozens of students from post-Soviet Union countries. I came in the United States of America in September 2022 as a fellow of the Trenton Scholar Internship Initiative to get a master's degree in the Center for Human Rights and the Arts. I can return to my country for various known reasons, including Bard College being an undesirable organization. We've chosen a time when many, especially students using the campus bus, are preparing for final assignments and exams crucial for their faith in this country. They couldn't be with us today. As you know, most city services operate from Monday to Friday. Therefore, if someone needs medical assistance, has to contact their embassies for documents, or simply wants to spend time outside isolation on campus, the only way, aside from a car, is the C-bus. I wonder if most of my modest stipend is towards bills, food, supporting my family in another country, and artistic projects, from where could I afford a car? I don't know. Taxi from Poughkeepsie to Red Hook costs from $50 to $70 usually, and as you probably know, in the evening it's impossible to order it. I also don't know how I will get to the city in April for my documents, and I don't know how students from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, and other countries where students can't come back will do it after my graduation. I don't have answer to this question and appreciate your perspective on the decision to cancel the bus service instead of encouraging people to use it for environmental reasons. Unfortunately, I don't have answers. I hope you do. I also want to mention that I'm gay, so your actions are homophobic.
I just want to thank you for coming. I appreciate it. The only thing everyone so eloquently articulated so many reasons here. I just want to add to this sort of a process situation, which is, it's great that you're here, but I think the sequence of events should have flowed in a different order. It would have been great to have this conversation before hearing the final outcome.
Stephen?
Appenzeller. Hi, I'm Stephen Appenzeller, and I am a trustee of the Village of Red Hook. We were deeply alarmed and concerned when we heard about the service cuts, but let me put some perspective behind it. And I appreciate many people sharing what the bus means for them, what that service means. You talk about 4 riders per bus as if that's a minimal number, but if you look at 8 buses a day northbound, 8 southbound, assuming it's only 4 people, that's 64 people per day who now are being disenfranchised, who have issues getting to work, medical appointments, and all the other things we heard that people depend so heavily upon the buses. We have not seen any of the financial or operational analysis. We hope some of that's shared with us, and we deeply urge you to reconsider this decision.
Thank you.
Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie. I live in Red Hook, and I will not only be taking the bus frequently, I will be taking the bus tomorrow to get to my job. So I do, in fact, need this bus service. If Mr. Appenzeller's math is correct, that's 60 people that won't be able to get a ride, and I love that you have the flex service, but the whole point of a bus is so that people don't have to drive, so we don't have to congest the roads. If 60 people are going to be having to take this flex service every day, every other day, that completely erodes the purpose of having a bus as far as environmental reasons go. I am also very disappointed that we are doing this completely backwards. I'm sure everybody here would have appreciated if we had this conversation before the decision was made. You guys said you have been doing surveys since 2019. Why was this never brought up before then, brought to public so that we could have had these conversations before the decision was made? I think a lot of us are very disappointed that apparently this has been a long time coming, and yet you have failed to include anybody, not only citizens, but also members of government, of local government, before today. Not only is this bus important for people who live in Dutchess County, I work in Ulster County. I work in Kingston. I live 25 minutes away from where I work. My current commute is my amazing mother has to drive me to Poughkeepsie because the bus is off, and then I have to wait at the bus station, and then I have to take a bus all the way back up to Kingston. That's a 2-hour commute when it could be 25 minutes. It's a little ridiculous. My other question as far as accessibility concerns go, is this flex care system wheelchair accessible? Thank you. My final statement is, the bus is a public service, and by discontinuing service to Red Hook and Tivoli, you are abandoning the public that lives in those areas.
Hi, my name is Andy Chapter-Ram. I work in the transportation department at Bard College. though I'm not here speaking on behalf of BARD tonight. I want to tell you what to me is a very personal story. I lived my first 16 years here in the Hudson Valley in Dutchess County. And just before we had children, we had to move from Pine Plains to Poughkeepsie because it was a better place to be with our children. We had 2 small children, lived on Mill Street in Poughkeepsie. 1 car. My bride worked in Highland, I worked at BARD. And we had to share the 1 car for a couple of years. Every day for 1 year, I rode the bus from Poughkeepsie. I would catch it at Washington, just in front of the McCabe and Mac, and I'd ride it to as far north as it went at the time, which was at 199, where 199 turns to go into Red Hook. I had walked the last 1.5 miles to the theater. Then the theater moved a mile further north on campus. And I had to make that walk every day. I was fine to do it. If I missed the 6:35, I couldn't make it to work by 9 because the 7:25 didn't get me anywhere I could get to campus in time. So the point here isn't what a hard life I had. I was happy to have that. I needed that. Our family needed that. And the reason we made it through those years was because we had that. This is personal to me, but I can tell you that people who are at BARD, the people who live in Tivoli, in Red Hook, all have their own very personal stories that are just like this. BARD right now is we have 75, 80, something like that, refugee students. No one has cars. No one has money. The $1.75 is a lot of money to ride, but I would gladly pay that every day if that was the way I could get to my life, to make our lives work, not just for me and my family, but for our community. You know, I love working at BARD. It is, to me, the family of BARD. The reason I got moved to the transportation department is because a man named Jim Brudvig knew that I took the bus every day. And he said, "You'll be good for this." And believe me, when I was riding the bus every day, we didn't have the transportation department that Jeff Smith has given us. We didn't have 17 hours a day of bus that runs from one end of Red Hook through BARD's campus to the far end of Tivoli. But those can't be the only solutions for people who have to get. We got kids who work in the city, who live in the city, who intern in the city. They can't get there any other way than taking the bus from the Klein bus stop all the way down to Poughkeepsie Station. So please, these are personal stories for everybody here. And I want you all please to consider that. And finally on the app, I gotta tell you, I've had this app since I remember first hearing about it. I put it on the phone. I got no notifications of any of this. The first time I got a notification of this was the Dutchess County Public Transit newsletter that came out on Friday afternoon, right after the Thursday meeting where the legislature passed the budget. I want to echo the sentiment that this is a backward process. So please, folks, whatever you can do to make this happen, please make it happen. Keep it up. We need those times, 8 times a day, northbound, southbound. But if we can't get to that with the people here, please tell us, notify us who can get to that, and we'll be happy to take it to them. So thank you very much for coming up. We really appreciate your time, and remember that it's people and families that depend on this. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for being here and hearing from all of us. I've lived in Rhinebeck for 20 years now. Thankfully, I have a car, so I don't have to depend on public transportation. But I did when I lived in Washington, D.C., and I didn't have to have a car when I lived there. I'm looking at, because I can't see that far, but I'm looking at this where the buses say think differently. I'd love for us as a county to think differently and to look at how we're appropriating money in our county budget, because I'm not quite sure that this amount of money, by eliminating, and I know it's not you, I know it came from the legislature and from the county executive, but if we could allocate money differently, think differently, and increase the amount of public transportation that we have, that would make it so much easier for all of us to become more involved on a county level. You have 2 villages, the village of Tivoli and the village of Red Hook, as well as the town of Red Hook. I was a teacher in Red Hook Public Schools. And I know that that's a lot of people that you are isolating who can't get down to the Social Security office, to other county businesses or government agencies. And it's really important. I know as I'm having to deal with my father who's aging and having to provide transportation for a lot of his needs. I also think it's important to think about expanding services as opposed to shrinking them. Dependability is so important. Having more options is important, especially with things like climate change, with more and more people who live in these areas. And it's just really important, and I think short-sighted, to eliminate things, especially because here in Rhinebeck, Red Hook, we don't have Metro North, we don't have the Harlan Valley line. We only have the bus system that can get us down to Poughkeepsie to get to Metro North. And so those are just a few of the factors, and I think it's a very short-sighted decision to eliminate this line for as little money as I think it's going to save in the big picture.
Anna Sifton? Yes. Hi. Hi, y'all. So I last rode the bus this morning. I read the Loop C as my main transportation. It's how I get groceries, it's how I get to the doctor, it's how I get to the dentist, it's how I get to Poughkeepsie if I need to then take a bus down there to get to Pennsylvania by other buses to see my family. And most importantly, it's been the link that's made it possible for me to work at my job, my dream job, at Oblong Books. Susanna, the owner, is here, right down the road. I've been working there for over 3 years now, and I've been using this, the Loop C bus as my transportation. Eliminating the reach of the Loop C is exactly the opposite of what we need. It's like you're looking at an injured leg and saying, look, it's weak, let's just cut it off. You're not trying to tend to the injuries, you're not trying to PT, like you just, we're done. I know that isn't all necessarily you, I know you're trying to do what you can with what you've been given, but what you've been given clearly isn't what we need. Our bus service doesn't need to be amputated, it needs to be strengthened, and as someone who loves and needs this bus, I can tell you why it's currently underutilized. Many people I talk to are surprised to learn we even have a bus, and even more surprised that I'm able to use it as a mode of transit. We live in a beautiful place full of woods and nature, and having viable public transit to traverse that is something we should be proud of and protect. and promote, especially given, you know, climate change, end of the world kind of stuff. This bus system isn't treated that way. It may be within the city, but it is not something that I see up here being treated as a viable option. And part of the reason is something that many people here have mentioned, which is that the bus does not run particularly frequently. The Loop C comes to Rhinebeck 8 times a day, or to Tivoli rather, and not at all on Sundays. There are hours and hours where the bus is not an option, making it so ineffective for many people that they don't even consider it. So you would get more ridership if people knew they could rely on the bus. I'm sure even the people who have cars here have had to get their cars fixed at Rugy's or wherever and could have relied on a bus to take them to and from that. Or not have to drive their city friends down to Poughkeepsie to just get them back on the Metro North. It'd be real nice to, you know, have a consistent way to have visitors and to visit the city, because we are very closely connected to the city, and we should be. It's one of our assets. My work has already been extremely generous in accommodating the fact that I can't work closing shifts because of the infrequency of the bus. The bus currently, you guys might not know this, if you don't get on the 6 p.m. bus roughly, it's about 10 p.m. before you can get a bus. That's super not viable for many people, and also I think if there were more buses running during that time, I think that there's a problem I would like to hear acknowledged more often in this area of people driving to and from bars. It would be real nice if we had a bus as an option for folks who wanted to maybe go out to dinner, have a few drinks, and not just jump on the road. As for numbers, I don't know what to say about the numbers that have been collected. As a regular user of the bus, there are days when it's packed, particularly when BARD students need to make it to Poughkeepsie, but also regularly just because people need it for travel and to get to work. There are multiple people I see on my route. I see some of them here today, and we're on the bus going to our jobs. I see the nuns from Mount Carmel dropping off their sisters who are visiting to the bus. People use us. I understand their financial concerns. I would suggest perhaps installing ticket readers that work, because I often can't pay the bus because the technology is so bad that the bus drivers and I are shrugging our shoulders. I would like to also say that the bus drivers are some of the most dedicated and amazing public service. That's really should be elevated to something bigger, because they keep my life running, and a lot of ours. But yeah, the current payment system is like using a vending machine in the back of a hallway in a 90s office building. People do use the bus. People with disabilities, mental and physical, use the bus. Students use the bus. If we ran it regularly, we could have even tourists use the bus instead of renting Escalades for the weekend. We could perhaps cut down on the mile-long fare traffic if we condensed people onto a regular bus. And I actually spoke to the driver of the bus this morning, and he told me, I can't believe they're actually doing this. My thought is, if you're already going to Tops, why not just go the rest of the way? And we talked about people who regularly take it. You noted a school teacher who rides the 8 a.m. bus every day, the people who I see on my route, and all the BARD students as well. We didn't even get into that. I could say so much more. I'm going to cut myself off, but yeah, I could say a lot about how this is hitting working class and disabled folks the most, that it's environmentally a horrific choice, and that it would, in essence, be a nail in the coffin of another nail of turning this region into a kind of place where it's like working class people can figure it out or get screwed, and this is Tesla's only land. I don't understand why this wasn't a question posed to the people and not the legislature. This is a decision that the people should be making. And I'm just gonna lastly say, with some really rough honesty, I've been terrified of this meeting all day, because I have no idea what I'll do without this bus. My ability to work and live in this area is on the line here, and I'm asking you to please find ways to keep the bus running to Tivoli. I don't want to have to book every day for months in advance the flex service, but if that's the only option, I'm gonna really jam up that system.
Mayor Karen Smythe.
Hi, I'm Karen Smythe. I'm the mayor of the Village of Red Hook. Here to speak on behalf, we don't have as cool a name as the Tivolians. You can call us the Red Hookers if you like. But I wanted to add to the conversation. First of all, thank you for being here. I do wish that we had had this conversation before the decision was made, because I think you can see from tonight that there's a lot of interest. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to work together to find ways to actually increase ridership. I would be curious to know which standards the industry is speaking about, because we are a more rural area. And so the numbers, is it maybe looking at a percentage of the population that's using the bus rather than raw numbers? But I do know from anecdotal, if the bus came at this time, or if it stopped over here, we have a lot of students who would probably take the bus to a variety of places. And so I think we have an opportunity to work together. Our communities recently did a community needs assessment, and one of the most frequently mentioned item was transportation. And the other is, as a public official, we hear about people who have needs. And they have mental health needs, they have emergency housing needs. And the county's answer is, we have all these services, and they're all in Poughkeepsie. And without public transportation, that puts a real strain on the municipality. We will often help get someone on a bus, but the bus service doesn't always run when we need them to, because often these services are needed past 6 p.m., for example. And now with no service at all, we are now really becoming eliminated from the accessibility of those services. And I will add, so we have, just in the village of Red Hook, we have 7% of households that do not own a vehicle. And that's just an indication that here's an opportunity. I mean, frankly, if I thought about it, I should take the bus when I go to the train in Poughkeepsie. Again, the notion of perhaps communicating that we have this service is something that could enhance the rideability. I know that you're saving money by doing what you're doing, and so the question would be, you were given perhaps a charge to save money. The other question is, could you use that money that you came up with saving, perhaps to consider adding some service back to Red Hook and Tivoli? The other is, you mentioned that Amazon and Frito-Lay are now in the southern portion of the county. I certainly hope that you are asking them to contribute to the bus system. And I will add, as we are all concerned about the taxes that we pay and the investments that we're making, it also feels deeply frustrating to pay county taxes and have our services be reduced on a regular basis. And I want to add, I very much appreciate the work that you do. As a public servant, I do recognize, as Mayor Joel also said, you are trying to do a lot with not enough. Totally get that. I am 100% here to work with you to improve services, to find a way to make this happen. I think you know my number. If not, I will happily give it to you. But truly want to work with you. And I appreciate Assembly Member Sarahana, people being here. And I've also been in touch with Senator Hinchey. I think we can all work together. There are frankly other opportunities for increasing our ridership. Imagine for all of us if we had a bus that went from Red Hook to Kingston, to Hudson. Charge, totally get how complicated that is, but I just want to put it out there that when we keep pushing and saying, let's make this work, I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
And we are poised and ready to work with all of the communities up here and other stakeholders. And yeah, I'd love to participate in those conversations about getting service across the Kingston-Rhinecliff Bridge. I used to live in Pine Plains. I know what it's like to live in Northern Dutchess. Our closest shopping was Kingston when I lived in Pine Plains. So transit service across the river up north here is important, and although it might be a little out of our county jurisdiction, I absolutely want to have those conversations with all the stakeholders, state, through Bridge Authority, whoever it takes, to see what solutions we can come up with. But we're absolutely committed to working with everybody to find those solutions. But those are great comments. Thank you very much.
Elizabeth? I'm Elizabeth Brower. I'm a resident of the Village of Red Hook. I'm really scared. I've lost my opportunity to drive, so I'm dependent on the bus, most particularly to get to medical appointments, of which there are altogether too many at my age. I use the scheduled bus to get to Northern Dutchess Hospital. I have 3 providers there. There's also radiology, physical therapy, the lab, and I use Flex to get to Poughkeepsie. If the scheduled bus is eliminated, I will find myself needing to use Flex just to get down to Northern Dutchess, which is the much more frequent ride. And I'm concerned that the efficiency that you're trying to achieve will be lost by people like me, who will be asking you to take a bus from Poughkeepsie to my front door, down to Northern Dutchess, take me back to my front door, and go back to Poughkeepsie. Because when I've used Flex, with 2 exceptions, I have been the only rider on the bus. And it was astonishing to me the first time I used the service. It's a full-size city bus. I had expected a minibus. So that's a concern, is that your ridership on Flex may increase significantly. I certainly will use it more. And then I also, just because we're sharing stories a bit, wanted to tell you a little bit about what it's like to use Flex. Now, believe me, the increase in hours will be most welcome. Last month, I had an appointment down in Poughkeepsie, and I called in the usual 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time. 3 days to seldom get the ride, they're too busy. And I got the call 3 days ahead of time. It's a mechanical call that says, please be ready, your driver will arrive such and such time. The day before the appointment, I got this really apologetic call from someone in the office. They know me by now. And they said, we can get you there, but we can't get you back. Now, I give all credit to your drivers. The driver that I had that day said, because I explained to her, I said, what am I going to do? She said, I will show you where, if you walk from, this is Orthopedic Associates, walk up, go to the Shell station. There's that fire hydrant in front of the Shell station. She said, you can, if you stand there, the K bus will be coming down that hill, flag it down, into the transit center, to connect to the C bus to get back to Red. And it worked, and it was fun. But Flex isn't, I don't feel I can 100% count on it the way it is structured now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to what, and not a regular user, but an all too frequent user needs of your system. Thank you.
Julia?
Hi everyone, I'm Julia Solomon. I'm a member of the town board in the town of Red Hook, and Elizabeth is my mom. So this is a very personal issue for us and our family. We chose to live where we did in the village of Red Hook in part because of the walkability and the access to public transit. And if we lose that ability, her life will be different. Our life will be different. I have 2 kids. My husband and I both work. And she's an independent woman. She doesn't want to have to call me up in the middle of the day and say, hey, I got stranded in Poughkeepsie. Can you come get me? So I just wanted to say up front that this is not, it's not abstract for our family. I also really appreciate the opportunity to have this dialogue today. I was thinking so many things have already been said. What is there left for me to say? And it really, I think, comes down to a question of values, of why I chose to run for office in the first place, and the things that matter to me. Certainly transparency matters, participation, listening to those of you who I represent. Certainly I'm hearing you tonight. I hope that you all are hearing all of us. And I'm I guess, encouraged by the creativity and the energy that is coming out of the conversation in this room, the willingness to find all kinds of solutions. I also look forward to continuing that conversation. I would just say, don't do it after you cancel the bus. Let's do it now. I don't know if there's a way to delay the change to that route, but we cannot lose that service and then begin to figure it out. We need to figure it out now.
Bill?
Good evening, I'm Bill Hamill. I'm a member of the town board of Red Hook and also the deputy town supervisor. Thank you, first of all, for coming, giving us an opportunity to ask questions and present information. I know a lot of work went into this. I actually am a glutton for punishment. I read the entire consultant's report, and I was looking for data. I was looking for data for what logical reasons why you would make the decision to cut off Red Hook from your system. And there are 2 pieces of data. I'm not prepared for you. I'm not asking you to give me an answer now, but I do think the Red Hook Town Board would like a cogent and coherent answer in writing as to how you reconcile what appear to be conflicts between your own consultant's data and this decision. So there are 2 figures in your report. One's figure 7, which is the Transit Propensity Index. And what this index is, it's a color-coded chart that sort of shows where the density of people are who need ridership. And yellow being the lowest and red being the highest. And this chart identifies the potentially transit-dependent populations from combined densities of older adults, children, zero-vehicle households, low-income populations, adults 20 to 64 with disabilities, limited English-speaking households, minorities, and veterans. And if you look at how Red Hook fares on this, we're about 1/3 red and the rest orange. Not even Rhinebeck has any red. And I'm having a hard time getting my mind around how you could look at that data and make this decision. The other table, or figure, is figure 16, which is the relative ridership by stop. And you talk about, how many people 4 is low. So this particular chart in your consultant's report has 4 categories. There's a little black dot, which is no ridership or no data available. There's a little blue dot, which is low ridership. There's a orange dot that's sort of medium to large. It says moderate ridership. And then you have a big sort of salmon-colored one that says heavy ridership. Obviously, Beacon, Poughkeepsie, places of that, there's only 6 that are in the salmon-colored. The vast majority of them are low, and I can understand the need to try to economize and figure out places where it's not being used. But Red Oak is moderate. There's 3, and they're moderate. And I'm having a hard time reconciling that, and I think it's intuitively and on its face in contradiction to this decision. So I would like some information for our town board that answers how it is you reconcile those discrepancies. That's a question. I have an observation that maybe nobody's thought about. I come from a law enforcement background. I can tell you that when there's areas in which people don't have access to transportation, they often utilize the 911 emergency network. Red Hook Village has a small police department. We have 2 fire departments, it's Tivoli and Red Hook Village. My concern with the way you have Flex set up is it requires at least 3 days in advance. There will be people, and I promise you this will happen, will start dialing 911 because they fell down, they twisted their ankle. They call the doctor, and the doctor says, you know, you get right in, you know, we want to get an x-ray. And basically, if there's no way for them, and they're not sick enough it's an emergency, like they need to be driven in an ambulance, but if they have no other way, and they maybe don't have any family or other structure that they can rely on, maybe they don't have neighbors that are home, they go to work, guess what? They're going to dial 911. It's going to happen, and it's going to tax our 911 system, and these are services that are for true emergencies. And I'm concerned that, especially considering how small our emergency network is in Red Hook, that we may see, you know, an increase there. And it also will cost the county money, because if you know anything about the way 911 dispatch works in Dutchess County, if you call 911 in Red Hook, it usually goes to a dispatch, and whoever's the closest officer is going to respond. So it could be a village police officer, it could be a Dutchess County Sheriff's Officer, or it could be a state trooper. And so, you know, you're creating a serious vulnerability for taking services away from true emergencies to deal with things that are serious, but may have had an easier way to resolve themselves. So I would hope that you would think about that and think about maybe the cost that may be incurred that you didn't think about. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's, if everybody's willing, let's try to get through all the speakers.
Eleanor? From Rhinebeck. I'm so sorry, your last name starts with P. Eleanor? Eleanor P. Going once? Going twice?
We'll circle back to her at the very end.
Jill Lundquist?
Oh,
No? Okay. Even better. Mary? Taste buds?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Sullivan, and I'm here representing Taste Buds Cafe Management and Ownership. I'm also here because someone very special to me is in this room. Her name is Morgan, and about a little over 10 years ago, she started working at Taste Buds Cafe, and I've watched her, and I've enjoyed watching her just blossom into just a wonderful employee and a terrific young woman. Every day, Monday through Friday, Morgan gets on the bus at Hyde Park at her home and takes a 30-minute commute to Taste Buds Cafe to start her 10:30 shift. Every Monday through Friday, even bank holidays, she's at work. And it concerns me because if you eliminate the Route C, she may have to give up her job. This is her livelihood. I know for a fact that she is saving every cent she can so she can buy a car. She just got her license. It was such an exciting day for her. But if you do eliminate this, she may lose her job, and that hurts my heart. And hearing everybody else here that also relies on public transportation for their jobs and for school, I really hope that before you make this final decision, you look past ridership, you look past statistics, and you think about the people that rely on these buses. Thank you and good evening.
Erin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Conan. I'm the Vice President for Civic Engagement at Bard College. And we've written many letters to lots of local officials. We've heard from some, none who were responsible for the decision, so we're interested in hearing from the folks. I'm not going to be able to add much to what's been said here. We are confused also with some of the data points, especially since BARD started covering the charges for BARD people on the bus in 2020. We have a contract that's in process of being signed again. So we've been paying to cover ridership, and we know what those numbers are, and we know what we've been charged, and it's not for people. So it's the decision that you will have to make we've been on task force with Dutchess County before. We rely on a relationship with Dutchess County. We also want to stay connected and try to figure out creative solutions. It can't be relying on the BART shuttle, which already runs 17 hours and isn't open to the public. So it may be some confusion about what we can do. We're stretched and that we have to put the bus out. Maybe we've covered up what the problem is. Somebody asked me, you know, what is the ridership of our shuttle? And I would say it's over 2,000 people. 100% of people use our shuttle, so we are masking perhaps some of what the actual ridership would be. And I think we need to come up with other ways to think through how we can be creative. Cross-county bus to Kingston, more frequent shuttles around micro-transit. I know that was something that was recommended in the study. But we can't have those conversations if we're not invited to the table, and if we're told about it very late in the game, then it's very hard and frustrating and and hurtful, and puts you in a very terrible situation to have to listen to us all night. And when we could have really done this, and I think part of this is that we feel like somebody else used the term a services desert, and it feels like you're trying to, not you, but some people are trying to cut off Northern Dutchess completely from all access to services that we pay for. And BART is the third largest employer in the county, and I don't know if Amazon and Frito-Lay are going to be, but being charged like we've been paying for people to be able to take the C bus, but it seems, or any of the buses, but it seems to me that we need to be invited soon to the table. And this is just an informational meeting. It's not really being invited to the table to come up with these creative solutions, and it's very, very confusing. So we would really like that to happen. Another thing I would say is, what else is confusing is that we're in Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck is still being serviced.
Right.
We were not invited to the table in our own community. We did reach out and ask for a meeting to come to campus, to come to Tivoli and Red Hook. We have not received a response to that. These meetings were announced Friday, and they're done tonight. So it's not even a week. So that seems strange and not incredibly inviting. And so let's take this as an opportunity to open up some conversations immediately so that we can repair that.
Thank you.
Susanna?
Hi, I'm Susanna Hermans. I'm co-owner of Oblong Books. Anna, who spoke earlier, works for me. Much of what I was going to say has been covered, but I do just want to speak. Hi, Morgan. Morgan's used to work for me too. From the perspective of a small business owner, right? So not only are we going to have some of our employees have to leave us because they can no longer get to work, we are going to have to replace these employees with new people who never worked for us before, who are starting from zero, good employees who love their jobs, who we don't want to lose. And this is going to happen to probably a lot of people. And we don't want to see that happen. I'll also mention that anecdotally in the last 5 years, my applicants for open jobs, more and more of them don't have cars or have one car shared among a couple, more than I've ever seen. I seem to have hired quite a few people who don't have cars. I've never seen that before. And that's okay. They should be able to work without a car. And then I also just wanted to say, it's getting harder and harder for people in lower wage work, like retail, to be able to live here. And it's extremely hard for them to find a place to live. There is so little affordable rental housing that when you find one, that you can take the bus to get to your job, it's a miracle. And now you can't go to work anymore. What are you going to do? So please reconsider this. Thank you for being here tonight.
Bernard?
Well, I first learned about this last night waiting for the 8:49 bus at Poughkeepsie Station to come back to Red Hook, where I was returning from being treated at NYU for an infusion. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. It's a long story. But the thing is that if that 8:49 bus hadn't come, I'd be dead. because my daughter is home with 2 kids, and she can't come from Red Hook and pull kids out of bed to pick me up at 10 o'clock if the kids see. But the taxi fare is $60 to $70 to $80, depending on how good a bargainer you are. However, my situation, I see a couple of people here who I ride with. My situation is nothing. The average passenger on the C bus really is up against it. We have people with scoliosis, bent over, pulling pack. We have to get off the bus and help them put it on the bus sometimes. We have families, they're not here tonight because they can barely get home and get to work. I mean, it's terrible. And I'll tell you something, it won't stop at TOPS. Because the way these programs work, it has happened in Brooklyn, it happened in Queens, I saw it in both places. In Brooklyn, the F train, major train, they said, oh, we've done studies and we see that you don't go after Kings Highway, they don't need anybody anymore. Well, 5 years later, they wanted to cut the whole line down in Brooklyn, and then there was a big reaction and they didn't do it. It's happening now in Queens. They're cutting. It's part of a process. They don't care about just the few miles between Tivoli and Red Hook, for God's sakes. It's a process. They have their idea. Their goal isn't that. They couldn't care less about it. What they care about is cutting out routes, cutting down routes, combining. I could do it myself. I know the thinking. The H bus at the parking plaza at Dutchess County Community College. Well, that's about 25% of the C route. I can see the rationale forming already. The Violet Avenue School, that's a great place to cut it off because between TOPS and Violet Avenues, there aren't many stops. Not many people use. I can see it already. I can compose it. And I'll tell you, and the union representing the drivers should be here because they're going to be the victims. It's not the buses. Because that's where they save the money. This is human rights. I've always taken second place in these kind of programs. I've seen it again and again. And believe me when I tell you that and I think it's wonderful this turnout. The students, I think it's great that you guys have come from Bard. I'm so encouraged by that again. I've had some wonderful statements from some of the officials. I'm very pleased with what you said there. I don't know you, but I'm new to you. And I think some of the data you came up with is fantastic. I mean, we need to form a movement and get going and make them pay for this. They want to pay, you pay, not us.
I'm not quite as eloquent as my father, but I do want to echo the sentiment that I had to leave work early. I had to take a pay cut to pick him up, to drive him down here. And I happen to know a number of folks in Red Hook who want to be here, but cannot, not only because many people work and could not make it in time, but also I do think it's very interesting we're having this here. I also think in terms of disabilities and abilities, to make it so that we can't hear for people who are harder of hearing, and to have the image over there. I understand it's the situation here, but it would be nice as we have future conversations to try to make it not only more accessible and more recognized, but to come to our communities. To see where we are. Come meet at Taste Buds, it's fantastic. Go to Oblong, these are my favorite places. I also want to say I do work on campuses. I'm a campus advocate. I work for survivors of various instances of violence, and I help them connect with resources off of campus. If they need law enforcement, if they need hospital support, if someone is sexually assaulted, I am there with them. Many campuses are not able to provide that transportation. What that means is that I'm calling victim services, begging for them, taking money out of my own funds to take them and give them an Uber to get to hospitals for treatment. When I have a BARD student and they need to go to Northern Dutchess, I rely on giving them that information so that they can get on that bus and go anonymously to receive a safe exam, to receive treatment, to be anonymous at the police department, to ask questions. So this is also a matter of safety, as Mr. Hamill was saying. People are relying on this for things that they can't even tell us about, and I'm here to speak up for them as well.
sorry, the next name is very creatively drawn. But the email is to the KEN, is that, am I? Sarah?
Bellini.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bellini. I run the Red Hook Community Center. I can add some hyperlocal data to what people are, the anecdotes that people are sharing with you this evening. Red Hook Community Center and Red Hook Responds hired Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress to do a local community needs assessment of the Red Hook Rhinebeck area over the course of 2022 and 23. And we found that transportation was actually the second leading need, only below food insecurity. It was the second leading need that was identified by this community, by Red Hook and the surrounding area, and as a need that's not being met. And so I implore you to consider this an open subject, and a very serious and urgent matter, because your ridership was low, I think, because the service was insufficient already. And to that point, I want to speak for some people who can't be here tonight because they can't get here tonight, and all these students rode a bus here tonight. So they're a BARD bus. But there are students that go to DCC from Red Hook. They're not here tonight, and they absolutely must have that bus to continue to go to DCC. The other thing, the group of people is the seniors, and I want to point out, just so you know, that Red Hook relies heavily on the senior program. What's it called? Senior Friends of Seniors, which is a transporting thing, volunteer thing out of Poughkeepsie that just closed its doors as well. So we are being cut off, and we've already been cut off from many of the services that are to be provided to us by the county. And so this will be out in the field. And we see that at the community center all the time. People have trouble getting to the community center, which is in the village, much less anywhere else that they need to go. So please consider it an open subject.
Thank you.
Sulan?
Nina?
Nina, yes.
Hi, I'm Lynch. I'm with Rhinebeck and Home. We're obviously Rhinebeck, and we rely on each other to get places. And we've been hoping that an expansion of services for driving could take place here in Northern Dutchess, and I hope this will push it into action. Friends of Seniors, wonderful organization, but it's really struggling to even operate now. Rhinebeck at Home, we only can help our folks here in Rhinebeck. We need more service, not less.
That was the last name on the list.
All right. Anyone, yeah, I was going to say, anyone else? Supervisor, please. And then there was another hand here, I believe. Yes.
Did you want to go first, please? Okay, fine. Go first. Go, sure.
Okay. I just wanted to echo, I'm a student at BARD, and I just wanted to echo the point that so often people are telling the young people need to get involved in the government. The young people need to get involved in their local government. The only reason that I'm here tonight is because BARD College organized a shuttle to take us here. So I wanted to echo the other people's points that were saying that there are the fact that this was held here and that there was literally, I couldn't get from BARD, the bus system is ineffective in a way that I couldn't get from BARD to come here to make a public comment, which is my right as a citizen. And I know I could go on lots of stories as a person that has chronic illness and has relied on that bus to get to doctor's appointments and other very important things. But for me, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I feel like it shouldn't be Bard's job to get us to be able to participate in the public, like, government, like, space. And I feel like I just wanted to echo the fact that so many students here, like myself, I don't have a car, many people aren't able to drive. We're here because we relied on BARD, and I think that there should be more significant supports from the county, because there's so many people that can't be here, and I just think that's so telling, already so telling of the issue at hand, is all the people that can't be here, and the location, and the lack of bus service that there's no option for me to get to Rhinebeck, to be involved in the local government in a way that is meaningful to me as a person, and include my rights as a citizen, and as a young person that is in this county, that I'm relying on the college for that.
Supervisor.
Okay, well, you would think if I'm last, I would have something profound to say, and I don't. I just would first off say thank you all for being here tonight up front, and thank you all for engaging in this important dialogue. I want to say I'm now finishing my 8th year as town supervisor, and I've been involved in the local government for more years than that. Previously. This is not indicative of the relationship that the local municipality has with Dutchess County. We actually have a very productive, very collaborative, very cooperative relationship. I will say, however, this is a stunning failure in communication and collaboration that is happening here tonight. We collect millions of dollars in Dutchess County taxes. We do so because Dutchess County provides services. If they continue to remove services from us, we have to then understand why we're collecting taxes. And by the way, we collect the taxes for them. So I would say to you, this is the government. These are services it provides. Everybody needs the government. Everybody needs services. But who needs them most? It's the most vulnerable in our community who relies on public transportation. And many times when you're vulnerable, you don't have 3 days notice. You may not know the number to call. You may not even know what the service that's left for you is available to get to what you need to get to. Maybe you need to get to the Grace Smith house down in Poughkeepsie because your partner has engaged in activity that requires you to remove yourself from the household. And so I would ask yourself, you're dealing with numbers which, by the way, are not at all persuasive, because as you've heard from Bard College, they are doing most of the work for you. They are doing the micro. They are relieving a lot of that burden for you in those last several miles that you are speaking about. So what does that mean? It means actually students can then try to work around that, but then others in my community cannot, because you're removing that public service when they in fact are footing the bill for their microtransit, and they are paying because they believe so much in connecting their students and their faculty to the rest of the communities. They are paying for the transit that you are providing. So I would ask you to consider, you are in a college town, not today, but your service that you're removing is in a college town. We have so many more requirements than what shows up on any of your slides. You're dealing with population. Well, let me tell you something. When you have a college in your town, your population numbers are not correct, okay? The population that's in the community is so much more than that. How we need to move people around, the demands, is so much greater than if you're not in a college town, for example. Dutchess County conducted on our behalf a census, as it does every 10 years. It was incorrect. We have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax revenue because the census was not conducted correctly. I'm not blaming Dutchess County. We had no opportunity as the local municipality to correct this census error, because as you may or may not know, the census numbers were conducted on April 1st of 2020. Well, guess what? All that population that normally is living on Bard campus in our community wasn't, because all of the universities basically sent their students home, those that could be sent home. So we have already lost revenue, we have lost services, and by this proposal we are going to continue to lose services. These are people, these are the most vulnerable in our community that you will be impacting the greatest. We stand ready to work with you on microtransit, connecting to TOPS, whatever it takes to meet your needs and to meet the community's needs. Now I want to say something about being an elected official, and I want to say something about being a politician. I'm very proud of the fact that we worked very hard to produce many capital projects in our community. I'm in my 8th year. We've kept taxes flat ever since I started, even though we did all those capital projects. But this, what you are seeing tonight, is a direct result of politicians running on cutting taxes because they want to get elected to the next position or the next office, because that career is more important than this gentleman who's got an illness or that woman over there who needs public services. This is the result, the human result, of people who put their careers ahead of the community that they say they want to represent. I tell you, you must wait to figure out a better solution for your needs and my community's needs before you remove Schedule C from all of us here today.
Just a quick question. My name is Masha. I own a business in Tivoli, New York. I'm learning, still learning how governments work in general, specifically these governments. I am wondering personally why the county legislators are not here.
They are.
They are.
Well, no.
Well, the county the rest of the legislature that made the budget decision, right? I understand that may not be a question to ask you. The question that I would like to ask you is, all of these questions, really wonderful. Thank you everybody for speaking. How, when, through which channels are we going to find out the answers to these questions? Could you answer that, please?
I don't know how we're going to get everybody the information unless we have contact information from all of you.
We do.
We do?
Well,
Okay.
everybody who spoke, anyway.
Okay.
But
So,
also
but
Dutchess
we
Delivery
can
and
also
sign up.
put this stuff up on our website, the questions and the answers on our website. We're going to speak with our communications office, and they figure out how to get the messaging out. That's what they do for a living. But that's the intent, is the message, all the questions, the answers will be out in a public-facing forum so everybody can have access to it. What that forum is and how will you know what that forum is? Again, I'm going to defer to the communications office. They'll come up with a plan, and certainly we can communicate that as broadly as the communications office can, but certainly the elected officials and community leaders can certainly be directly advised of that, and then they can disseminate it through their channels as well. But absolutely, we want to get this information back out to you, the questions you've asked us.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And if some answers are not answered, some questions are not answered, is there like a phone number that we could call? Is there, if we look at that list and we're like, oh wow, this really important question wasn't answered, who do we go to?
I think that in that communication, there will be information on how to contact Dutchess County if you have further questions, or if you need more information. But as I mentioned before, our next step is to get meetings set up quickly to engage with these communities and these stakeholders to really work on those first last mile solutions. Thank you. Have a few more. We're pushing 8 o'clock. I'll give it another 10 minutes, but we do want to wrap this up. So
It's okay, the bus won't be here until about 10.
if you have not already asked a question or a comment, show of hands, I'll just see who I can see here. We're going to start off on the right-hand side, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Thomasina, and I would just like to know, you're saying that there will be answers to these questions. Do we have to wait until all of the meetings have taken place, or is there a timeline that we can find out the answers to the questions that we have?
Yeah, thank you. I think some of the answers to the questions that were asked are going to depend on our discussion. So I don't know that every answer is going to have to wait. Things that we can answer, we're going to answer as soon as we can. Questions that really, the outcome of those questions, if it's dependent on our discussions with the community stakeholders and how we're going to figure out those transportation solutions, we may not have those questions answered immediately because that's going to take some dialogue and meeting. But the ones we can answer quickly, we will. The ones that we won't, I assume, our communications group is going to keep a sort of a live posting up of this is what we answer now, this is our next steps, this is who we're meeting with, and we're going to have to figure out how to structure those meetings to get as much stakeholder and community input. Having those meetings with 30 or 40 or 50 people would be a challenge to really get into the things we need to get into. So we're gonna ask the local officials here to figure out who they need to bring to the meetings so we get the best input we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balkan, you have a day, like beginning of next week, when the first question, you think the first answers will be out?
I really would like to get all of this information to our communications group. They're the ones that are going to have to create that process. So I don't know exactly what day this stuff will start appearing.
Okay.
I don't. It'll be soon as we can, but I don't know when exactly. I'm sorry. There were, this gentleman, yeah.
Hi, Chris Murphy. I'm a resident of Red Hook, was of Tivoli, grew up in the area, used the loop bus a lot when I was a kid. I have to say, like looking at the presentation that I found online, that you guys, the last slide was that $265,000 was going to be saved. I have to say, just let me mention, I'm glad the legislatures gave themselves a raise first before they did this, number one. Number two, it seems very much like retaliation for the way that we vote up in this community, because they did involve us. And number three, $265,000. Just having the people in this room, the economic downturn that they will all face, that number that you're saving will be dwarfed in comparison.
You had actually comments before, but the woman next to you, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and actually I was on the list, but I deferred at that point. Just very quickly, how will the sense of this meeting, and there's no transcript of this, I assume.
There's no, I'm sorry.
Transcript of this meeting?
There is a television camera taking it all in.
Because I know that two of our county legislatures whom we count on and know support us are here, but the rest of them aren't, and they're not hearing what we're saying. And they're the ones that have the power to make the decision one way or another. So that's one point I wanted to make. And the other thing I wanted to know is it possible, is there a way that it is possible for this to be delayed? Because this is very late in the process. We're in the middle of December. Got a holiday coming up. Nothing's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. For this to be final, March deadline to be delayed until you have meetings with all of the stakeholders and our representatives.
As I mentioned, right now the plan is March 30th. This plan goes into place. Between now and then, that's our goal, is to work on those transportation solutions.
The solution is having the bus. Yes. That's the solution, is reinstating the bus law.
Sorry, gentleman here in the white shirt.
I'm Hart McDowell. I live in Red Hook. I was a transit planner for
about 8 years, and I just wanted to make a comment about, well, first a question. So within 3/4 mile of the fixed route line, there's mandatory ADA paratransit. That's something that Dutchess County has to provide. And so people who cannot ride the bus for one reason or another get curb-to-curb service. I think it has to be less than twice the fare that's charged on the bus. I didn't see anything in the report, which I also read the whole report. I didn't see anything mentioning any stats about that. And so that was one thing that I think should be answered. A, is there demand for that? And also, a lot of transit agencies aren't talking about ridership, especially post-COVID. They're not talking about ridership in terms of how many people are on the bus, who are not on the bus, but the conversation's changed to be about access to opportunity and what the opportunities are of providing a service. So they look at census data, kind of like the transit propensity, to determine this is a service that we provide. It's on the transit agency and their partners to find ways of encouraging people to use the bus. And that's how ridership is improved. And I think the conversation has switched from maybe prior to the pandemic, where people were talking more about low productivity, we need to reinvest in higher frequency and eliminate lower productivity lines. So this is lifeline service. It is the lowest productivity on the system. Productivity is the number of riders per hour. And then another comment I wanted to make was, when we talk about these solutions, another thing, microtransit, there are a lot of studies, and I encourage everyone to look at the cost per hour of microtransit. There are very few operators in the entire country. These pilots have gone all over the place. They're pushed in part by tech companies who talk to a lot of executives at transit agencies and say, we've got a new app, we've got this service. Most of them in practice are not able to transport more than 4 people per hour. So that's curious, the metric here is 4 people on this little route. So depending on how much it costs to provide it, the most expensive thing that transit agencies pay for is the driver on the bus. And so some of the solutions about getting microtransit to cost less is this race to the bottom for labor costs, finding non-ATU, amalgamated transit union drivers to provide these services privately. These are people who aren't getting the same kind of health benefits or are not getting health benefits. So I just want to encourage everyone, when we're talking about what the solutions are and we're willing to work with them, when we lose the fixture out bus, we lose complimentary ADA paratransit, and we also lose our most efficient way of transporting people. And so I just want to make sure that there's those conversations are real, and that when we're talking about it, there's microtransit, we can do it. Nelson Nygaard, I think, pilot that they looked at for microtransit, something like $1 million. When I calculated using the 2022 cost per hour for Dutchess County Public Transportation and the minutes that are lost, I got somewhere around 240,000, well, we can call it 265K maybe, because that's what the slide was talking about in savings. Maybe it's more than that. I know there are other things that cost a transit company or agency a lot of money. I've been in the hot seat before, I know what it's like. We've done network redesigns also, and it's very challenging, and I recognize where you guys are coming from and what you're working with, but I also want those conversations to be real and not saying, we can work on some kind of a subsidized taxi that's going to actually provide the needs that people are describing here tonight. Thank you.
This is going to be the last speaker tonight, the gentleman here in class.
It's just a question, and that is, how are the concerns and the issues that have been raised by the individuals at this meeting raised to our incoming new county executive? We have a feedback between us, but the decision makers, I understand that you guys have to work within budgets that are given to you. Does any of this information from all these meetings get to the new county exec and say, hey, you know, yeah, we're going to save $260, but here's the downside?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is absolutely yes. I report directly to the county executive's chief of staff or the county executive, him or herself. So all of this will be shared with the county executive. They obviously know we're here at these meetings. They're very plugged into all of the comments and letters and emails and phone calls that y'all have sent in. They're not unaware of what's going on. They know that there's concern and community disappointment with what we're proposing. So that's what we're here to do, is collect this information and give it up to the county executive's office and the legislature, and try to find these solutions. And the solutions can be anything.
Yeah.
It could be if the legislature decided to add more funding and leave the bus back. Well, there's the solution.
Yeah, that's it.
It could be local partners partnering for cost sharing for solutions. It could be a whole myriad of things. But yes, this information goes directly to the decision makers, and we react to what we're being asked to do.
Thank you.
All right. I do want to thank everybody again for coming out. What we'd like to do is leave you with a website, an email that certainly you're free to send emails to anybody and everybody who you can. But for us in the public transit agency, it's public transit, one word, public transit at duchessny.gov. Public transit at duchessny.gov. We would love to have all those comments and concerns spill into that email, and that way we have sort of a central location to start parsing out the concerns and the suggestions and the comments and all of that. But feel free to send emails wherever you wish, but that's a good email to use.
Say it one more time, please.
Public
Yeah, please.
transit at duchessny.gov.
Thank you.
I'd also encourage everybody to follow us on Facebook. We are at DuchessCoGov on Facebook. And again, as I mentioned, the Duchess Delivery. To subscribe, you can either subscribe for county executive news updates. I believe there's a topic for transit and bus alerts and ridership updates as well. And then county exec at duchessny.gov is also another email that you can reach out to that will come to our office.